Greetings and good morning, deep diggers. I welcome you once again to the Saturday morning awakening experience. I'm so excited to stand here before you one more time. And this is the place where we seek the inner light, the inner world, the inner walk. And so I have a word that I think will excite your soul. That's what we're doing here. We're lifting up your soul. One more time. I want to talk about armor today. And I'm not just talking about physical armor. You know how we do things here. But I want to talk about the armor that Ephesians 6:12 through 18 talks about. And I want to read that. Ephesians 6. And we're going to read from 12 through 18. And it says this, and I'm reading from the NLT. For we are not fighting against flesh and blood enemies, but against evil rulers and authorities of the unseen world, against mighty powers in this dark world, and against evil spirits in the heavenly places. That was very specific. Evil rulers and authorities of the unseen world, mighty powers in this dark world, and evil spirits in the heavenly places. We're going to have to talk about that in depth one time. Therefore, put on every piece of God's armor so you will be able to resist the enemy in the time of evil. Then, after the battle, you will still be standing firm. Stand your ground, putting on the belt of truth and the body armor of God's righteousness. That's the breastplate of righteousness. For shoes, put on the peace that comes from the good news so that you will be fully prepared. What is the good news? We're going to talk about that. In addition to all of these, hold up the shield of faith to stop the fiery arrows of the devil, the wicked one. Put on salvation as your helmet and take the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. Pray in the Spirit at all times and on every occasion. Stay alert. Be watchful. Be persistent in your prayers for all believers everywhere. And pray for me too. Ask God to give me the right words so I can boldly explain God's mysterious plan that the good news is for Jews and Gentiles alike. The good news is Christ lives in you. That's the good news. That is the best news. So the title of this message today is Put on the whole armor of God, those pieces that I just read to you. After you remove the armor that doesn't fit. Put on the whole armor of God after you remove the armor that you have on now that doesn't fit. And we're going to talk about 1 Samuel 17. 1 Samuel 17. And this is the armor that we're going to be talking about that you have to remove. 1 Samuel 17, 38 through 40. Saul gave David his own armor. I want to pause and give you a background. David is about to face a giant, a mighty warrior. And he is a giant. And the most fiercest armies are afraid to confront this giant. And not only is he a giant, he has an army behind him that is just as powerful as he is. And David wants to confront this giant. And David is going into this battle with tools that most people would look at and say, there's no way you can defeat the giant with those tools. There's no way. But David knew something that most people didn't know. He had an experience. He had original encounters with the Creator, with his God. Because in verse 34 it said, David persisted. He said, I have been taking care of my father's sheep and goats. And when a lion or a bear comes to steal a lamb from the flock, I go after it with a club and rescue the lamb from its mouth. If the animal turns on me, I catch it by the jaw and club it to death. I have done this to both lions and bears, and I do it to this pagan Philistine too. For he has defied the armies of the living God. And the Lord, this is what he knows, this is what he is declaring. The Lord who rescued me from the claws of the lion and the bear will rescue me from this Philistine. And so when David had finished declaring those words of power, Saul finally consented. He said, all right, go ahead, and may the Lord be with you. Now this is where it gets interesting. So he consented to David facing the giant, and it says, then Saul gave David his own armor, a bronze helmet and a coat of mail. David put it on, he strapped the sword over it, and took a step or two to see what it was like, for he had never worn such things before. I can't go in these, he protested to Saul. I'm not used to them. All right. So David took them off again. He picked up 5 smooth stones from a stream and put them into his shepherd's bag. Then, armed only with his shepherd's staff and sling, he started across the valley to fight the Philistines. I want to talk about this story. Yes. Everyone remembers certain things in this story. The main thing you remember in this story is the giant. That this young, looks like unprepared, untrained individual is going to face a competent, powerful giant. So everyone remembers the giant. Everybody remembers the stone that David threw. Everybody remembers the slingshot that he used to hurl the stone. The surprising victory of a young shepherd over a warrior that experienced soldiers even refused to face. See, we remember all of that because that is the exciting part of the story. The underdog wins. But the most important moment in this entire story happens before David ever steps into the battlefield. It happened in the tent with a king, Saul, and a piece of armor that didn't fit. And when Saul heard that David was willing to face Goliath, he did what any reasonable authority figure would do. He tried to prepare him properly. He dressed David in his own armor, his tunic, his coat of bronze, his helmet, and he put his sword on him. And David tried it. He didn't refuse it outright. He didn't say that it was unnecessary or beneath him. He put it on and he walked with it. He tested it. And then he took it off. And he said simply, I can't go in these, for I have not tested them. And he took them off. That moment of sovereignty, that moment of sovereign discernment, recognizing that what belongs to someone else will never serve you the way what is genuinely yours will serve. That is the real turning point of the entire story. Because everything that follows flows from that moment. When he made that decision, that is the most exciting, important part of the story. Yes. Taking off armor that doesn't fit you. Just because it's armor, we think we can use it. Yeah, it's battle attire, but does it fit? So what does Saul's armor represent? Saul's armor was not bad armor. It wasn't bad. It was proven equipment, battle tested, designed by people who understood warfare, and they knew how to build this armor. And this armor was worn by the most powerful man in Israel. But it represented the established way of doing things, the framework, the approved methods. It had been proven that the armor would do what it was designed to do. It represented the accumulated wisdom of those who had faced giants before and had survived. That's what that piece of armor represented. And so when Saul placed it on David, he wasn't being malicious. He was being genuinely helpful within the only framework that he knew. He was saying, David, this is how it's done. This is what has worked for me. This is what will protect you. Notice what he said. This has been working for me. See? And so he gives what belongs to him to David. But you know the thing about armor? Armor is fitted to the body that wears it. It's not just fitted for anybody, it's fitted for the body that's going to wear it. So Saul's armor was fitted to Saul's experience, to Saul's history, to Saul's way of moving through the world. On David's body, however, it became not protection, but like a handicap. Same piece of armor, but on two different people, it reacts a different way. On David's body, it was a handicap. It wasn't empowerment, but it was a burden. It was not a covering, but it was a constraint. He felt constrained in it. So here's the principle. The very thing designed to help him would have gotten him killed. If he had went into that battlefield with someone else's armor and not his own, it would have gotten him killed. So what did David pick up instead? What David reached for after removing Saul's armor was not nothing. He didn't walk onto the battlefield unequipped. Even though it looked like it, he did not walk into that battlefield unequipped. He chose his own equipment, didn't he? A staff, 5 smooth stones from a brook. That brook that had always been there, them stones that had always lain in that brook, he just picked it up. of his own direct experience, not borrowed for someone else's proven system, not impressive by the standards of warfare, not what any military advisor would have recommended. Nobody would have recommended that those tools would have been used in warfare. But you know what? The good thing about those tools were, they were his. Yeah. He had used them before. He understood how those tools would work in his hands. He had killed a lion with them. He had killed a bear. He had spent years developing a relationship with these tools through his direct encounter rather than inherited instruction. Inherited instruction versus direct encounter. We talked about that just last week. And all of this against a giant that had terrified an entire army, they were enough. Not because they were superior weapons, because they were authentic weapons. They were his, tried, proven, tested, and carried by someone operating from genuine capacity rather than a borrowed framework. He wore that spiritual armor that empowered his chosen weapons. See? He had spiritual armor. It wasn't physical. There was nothing physical about his armor. It was spiritual. And because he had on that armor, it empowered any type of weapon he would have chosen. Yes. Didn't matter what the weapon were. Yes. I had a personal story. When I was going through something, and this was 4 years ago, and I read that story, and it just jumped out at me. Yeah. I mean, when I say literally jumped at me, and it was the Spirit saying, it's time. It's time for you to take off the armor that was never meant for you. There was a title placed on my shoulders that my shoulders weren't built for that. And it was a title of a pastor. Not because the title didn't have any value. That's not what I'm saying. Not because the people who placed it there were malicious. They voted in good faith for me to be a pastor of that organization. And they saw something in me worth recognizing and tried to honor it within the only framework they had available. But the pastor title came with an armor already attached to it. The title was an armor. Expectations about how a shepherd leads. See, if I put that armor on, there's expectations that are required of me, of how I'm supposed to lead. See, that armor is dictating now how I should operate, how I should teach, how I should move. Institutional weight about what teaching should look like, what subjects are appropriate. I can't just pick any subject, any title that I wanted. I had to stay within the framework. What questions are permitted? What boundaries must be maintained? A way of moving through spiritual territory that had been fitted to someone else's body over centuries of institutional history. And for 4 years, I wore that armor honestly. I didn't reject it outright. I tried it. I walked it. I tested it. And I gave genuine effort wearing that armor until the weight of what didn't fit became undeniable. And I had to take it off. So publicly, I stepped down. And my stepping down was not due to failure. It was my David moment.
Say that.
It was my time to do that. Say that. That sovereign recognition that the armor belonged to somebody else, Mike. Say that. It wasn't mine to wear. that fighting the giant of my actual calling in someone else's equipment would not produce the victory my Creator had in store for me.
Yes.
Or in store for you.
Amen.
It limited me, and therefore it limited you.
His purpose.
That what is genuinely yours, deep diggers, the sling, the stones, the direct knowing, the uninhibited transmission, the light undimmed by institutional expectation is not less than the armor. It is more precisely suited to the battle that's actually being fought. You know what my weapons were that I picked up? Spiritual teacher.
That's it. Always
free.
Thank you.
Uninhibited.
That's your purpose.
No longer dimming my light. That is the staff and the stone that I recovered after that pastor armor was honestly removed. So here's the universal teaching, deep diggers. Every sovereign soul encounters their David moment. Every last one of you in here is going to encounter a David moment. Well, it's something that you're going to have to just take it off. Because there's attachments, expectations associated with it. Someone with genuine authority and genuine good intention places their armor on you. They're not doing it maliciously.
That's right.
It could be a title. It could be a role. It could be a framework. A way of being in the world that has worked for them or for the institution that they represent. So they offer it to you as a gift, as preparation, as the proven way going forward. And you try it. You honestly try it because you respect the one offering it. Because you are not certain enough in your own capacity to refuse it outright. You know you probably should, but you're not sure of some things, so you keep it and you wear it because the giant is real and the armor is offered with love, and the alternative feels like you're going to be exposed. But armor fitted to someone else's body will never move with yours. The places that their armor protects are not the places where you are vulnerable. See, it just doesn't fit. The places where it constrains you are precisely the places your greatest capacity live. But you can't because you're moving around in something that doesn't fit you. Every step in that armor costs more than it should. Every movement requires compensating for what doesn't fit. So you constantly got to compensate. That's what I was doing. I was constantly compensating. Even though I know I didn't fit the role, but I was constantly adjusting things so the armor could fit. And guess what? The giant is still there. The giant didn't go nowhere. Waiting. Growing larger in your imagination. The longer you stand in the armor that prevents you from moving freely, that giant is getting stronger. So that sovereign moment arrives when you recognize what David recognized. Not that the armor is worthless, that it's just not yours. And that what is genuinely yours, no matter how simple, how unimpressive by normal standards it may look like, however different from what the institution would recommend, is exactly sufficient for the battle you were actually called in to fight. Doesn't care what nobody else thinks about it. Take off the armor that belongs to someone else. But don't take it off in anger, not in rejection of those who placed it there, but with that quiet sovereignty, clarity of someone who has honestly tried it. You honestly gave it your all. You honestly wore it and tested it to see if it will work. You should do that, just like David did. But at some point, you're going to realize it will not serve the mission that's actually at hand. So once you take off the armor that doesn't fit. Put on the whole armor of God. It's going to fit in all the right places. It's going to fit where it's supposed to fit. Reach for what is yours. That whole armor of God. What does that represent? What did all of those pieces represent? Direct encounter with your Creator. Your uninhibited, you're going to start getting transmission and downloads. See, the armor prevented you from getting that because it was somebody else's armor. But when you take off their armor, all them transmissions and downloads, you're going to say, wow, look at Spirit moving in my life. It's going to be so different. Trust me, I'm living it right now. Your own authentic tools shaped by your own direct encounter with the true divine rather than from someone else's proven system. So the principle is, and I'm getting ready to close, the giant falls. The giant falls. Not because your weapons are more impressive, but because the weapons are genuinely yours. That's when a giant will fall. So here's a practice. When you feel the weight of an expectation, because you're going to feel it. I'm showing you, telling you how it's going to feel. You're going to feel the weight of an expectation. You're going to feel the weight of a title that someone put on you. You're going to feel the weight of a role that someone has put on you or a framework that someone else has placed on you. You have to stop. And you have to ask honestly, is this mine? Is this where I'm supposed to be? Is this what I'm supposed to do? Did I choose this from my own sovereign knowing, or did I accept it because someone I respected offered it? And I had not yet learned to trust what I actually carry. Deep diggers, I had to learn that lesson. And it freed me in a way I never expected. And it even came in a way that I never would have chosen. But it proved to be exactly what I needed. If it's not yours, deep diggers, if it constrains you, where your capacity to move, something inside of you say, I got this capacity, I want to do this, but something is holding me back. If it dims what wants to shine in you, if it burdens where you should be moving around freely, you have permission to take it off. Not dramatically, you don't have to make a big show about it. Not in declaration of someone else's wrongness, like this is wrong. No. It's nothing like that. It's not in defiance. This is not how you take it off. You don't take it off angry. You don't take it off mad at the world, accusing. You don't take it off like that. Simply and quietly. The way David removed Saul's armor. And then ask, what is actually mine? What tools has your direct experience with God sharpened? What knowing has your own encounter with the divine produced? What has it produced in you? What capacity for more lives in you? The Spirit is always going to put ideas in you and kind of push you to move in the direction that you need to go. Don't let anyone put their armor on you. It would never fit. And the giant cannot be defeated in equipment that belongs to someone else. That is what you bring to the battlefield. And that alone is enough. Remember, always be the treasure that you are seeking. Be the treasure that you are seeking. Because I already am. I already know. I already see. And I already have. I love you. Until next time, be blessed continuously.